Good evening, you're watching London Live News at 6 with James Dickman. Coming up tonight, Lee Byer is charged with murder for stabbing Thomas O'Halloran in Greenford, the 87-year-old grandfather on his way to Busk on his mobility scooter. London transport networks brought to a halt as the fifth 24-hour tube strike this year sees 90% of the underground services go down and some bus services out of action, all ahead of day 2 for the rail strike tomorrow. We'll have an update on London's weather as well in the next 10 minutes. And all you need to know from the week in Westminster, our Politics Roundup will deep dive all the latest talking points from the leadership contest. And TV and radio host Mark Wright on his preparation for the marathon on October 2nd with some helpful tips he's picked up from his 3-time London Marathon winning coach. That's all on the way, but first this evening, today's strikes brought London's transport network to a complete halt as tube workers and some bus drivers left their posts. Transport for London advised people to avoid travelling altogether today, with services also affected tomorrow morning, though bus drivers from the Unite union, employed by London United, are striking for 48 hours. Also, 400 London Overground workers employed by Arriva Rail were striking today, though the Overground is running through most of central London. It's the 5th time RMT members on London's Underground have walked out for 24 hours this year in a dispute over job cuts. The hangover from rail strikers yesterday also walking out tomorrow hasn't helped commuters also. Sadiq Khan has warned the government may be deliberately provoking the unions into strike action.
Well, the way the government's behaving, it's almost like they're deliberately provoking strikes across the country, not just in the transport sector, but in other sectors as well, as a precursor for legislation to curtail the rights of trade unions to go on strikes. It's really important for us to recognise that over the last 2 years, our transport workers have been frontline heroes, keeping public transport running to allow key workers, the nurses, the doctors, the retailers and others, firefighters, to get to place of work. It's not right to treat transport workers this way. I'm keen, though, to make sure we get the best possible deal for TfL, because we don't get a national recovery without a London recovery. We simply will not get a London recovery unless TfL fires on all cylinders. What we don't want are unreasonable draconian strings attached by the government.
Well, Mick Lynch, RMT's boss, was out for the second day running, saying the stalemate between the government and the mayor is causing the problem.
Well, there have been talks, lots of times. There's been a whole series of talks, but we're excluded from the talks because the main discussion is going on between the government and the mayor's office, and they won't even disclose the numbers involved, which runs into billions of pounds. But essentially, Mayor Khan is offering our members terms and conditions as a hostage to get the funding of the railway and the bus services as well, the whole of TfL, pushed downwards. So there are a lot of problems. We've got Arriva Rail London out on strike today, London Underground and Unite, fellow union, has got their bus workers out because they're suffering from low pay, but our members are being threatened with their pensions being cut to pieces and being poorer going forward.
There you go, let's have a look at some of London's other main stories today. A man has appeared in court charged with the murder of a grandfather stabbed whilst riding a mobility scooter in West London. Thomas O'Halloran, who is 87 years old, died at the scene on Caton Road in Greenford after being attacked just after 4 p.m. in the afternoon. On Tuesday, his friend said he was on his way to Busk, something he did regularly, playing his accordion. Lee Byer, who was 44 years old and from Southall, was remanded in custody at Willesden Magistrates Court. He spoke only to confirm his name, date of birth and that he was of no fixed abode. Well, with Thames Water announcing the hosepipe ban for London starting next Wednesday, the police have said today, don't call us to rat on your neighbours. Police say they've already received 999 calls about residents' use of water even before restrictions are in place. The hosepipe ban is a civil matter, not a criminal one, and police call handlers say they're being diverted away from dealing with real emergencies. Well, those using their hosepipes during bans could face fines of up to £1,000 if taken to court. although water companies say they prefer education over enforcement. A chef has appeared in court today accused of stabbing a colleague in a row at a Korean restaurant in Soho on Monday. 60-year-old Lee Hunan, a Chinese national, is charged with the murder of 58-year-old Il Sung at the kitchen where they worked at a side road in Oxford Street. It is alleged that the two men had argued about the way the victim was preparing the food, with the defendant querying his skill as a chef. Il Sung had suffered 2 fatal stab wounds to the chest, as well as slash wounds, including one to the face. A quick couple of national headlines affecting us here in the capital now. Rising numbers of people will fall sick and see their health worsen unless the government takes further action to limit energy prices and their increasing rise. The NHS has said that today. The NHS Confederation said the UK was facing a humanitarian crisis. The group, which represents health bosses, said many people would face the awful choice between skipping meals to heat their homes or having to live in cold and damp conditions. The price cap is set to go up at the end of this month, with predictions over £3,500. And UK consumer confidence for the future hit a record low in August due to the soaring cost of living and the bleak economic outlook. A sense of exasperation about the economy was the biggest driver behind the fall, according to GfK's Consumer Confidence Index. Inflation rose at the fastest pace for 40 years in July, and the Bank of England say we are heading for a recession. Meanwhile, retail sales volumes fell by 1.2% in the 3 months to July. There you go, on some football now. And the Premier League has got off to a dramatic and fiery start, particularly for the London clubs. Tottenham head coach Antonio Conte has said he and his Chelsea counterpart Thomas Tuchel must accept any punishment doled out by the Football Association following their fiery clash, but the Italian is expecting to avoid a touchline ban. His side are preparing to face Wolves tomorrow at home in North London.
We have to accept, and we have to accept to have respect for every decision. But I think that sometimes can happen. This type of situation. This is not the first time. It won't be the last time that two coaches are not in the right way, no, and or they are not agree. But the most important thing that we have to move on, and then to have respect each other. And for me, the situation finish there.
Well, Thomas Tuchel, the boss of Chelsea, who are travelling to Leeds on Sunday, had this to say. He found it a laughing matter after the incident.
Of course we laugh. It's very important to laugh about ourselves, and of course we laugh. And I was laughing in the dressing room because it was the heat of the match, and it was, for me, still it was not that bad. It was a handshake, and it was a bit too long and too heavy handshake, I admit it.
There you go, all the London clubs playing in the Premier League this weekend. 12:30 kickoff at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Wolves for the first match tomorrow of this Premier League weekend. Well, let's just take a look at the weather for those fixtures. Then this evening and tonight it will continue to stay dry and clear for most. Overnight lows of around 15 degrees overnight. Plenty of early morning sunshine. In the afternoon on Saturday, though, patchy cloud will tend to build, bringing a small chance of a shower or two. Mid to low 20s on the weekend. Same on Monday, but a rainy start to the week, unfortunately. Right, just time to bring you this before we head into a quick break. The London Dungeon is offering free tickets to students who received some pretty scary A-level results. If you got A's and A stars, this one isn't for you, I'm afraid. London Dungeons say the offer is for those whose grades are bad across the board, adding, we're talking more D's and E's than Sweeney Todd. The South Bank attraction would like leavers to explore London's horrible history and see there are much worse things in life than short-term exam result setbacks. They only ask for ID and proof of the grades, and that runs just until Sunday at 2 p.m. at the venue. There you go, coming up in just a few short minutes. Where is Boris Johnson, and why is he getting away with doing nothing as the cost of living crisis reaches its lowest ebb so far? More with John Johnston, our political expert, looking back at a week that sees inflation top 10%.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to London Live News. Right, it is our time now for a look at the week in Westminster, our deep dive into the big political issues from the last 7 days. John Johnston from Politics Home is here with me now. We're going to start with the obvious, perhaps, Rishi versus Liz. It looks like some reports, some polling this week, that Liz might win by a landslide.
Yeah, I mean, seems to be the way it's going. I think when we were still in the early stages, when there was a kind of number of MPs left in there, you know, the MPs were all backing Rishi Sunak. It looked like he was going to be able to win this pretty handsomely. And then as soon as it got down to the final two, Liz Truss has just extended her lead further and further and further. And unless there is a major kind of gaffe in her campaign, it really looks like she might have this sewn up already.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Both of them have been heavily sort of criticised throughout all the hustings by the left-wing press, but in particular the other day from the IFS, an independent economic body, who released stats saying that both of their tax measures that they would like to introduce if they were to become the next Prime Minister are both fanciful and wouldn't help the cost of living crisis that we're all in at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed even since we got down to the final two. You know, the energy bill forecast has gone up significantly. We're into double-digit inflation numbers. There's warnings now that the UK is facing a recession. And in some ways, it's very difficult for candidates in a leadership campaign to deal with those kind of rapidly changing situations. They have to put together policy. But even though they were in the government and are still in the government in Liz Truss's case, they don't have all of the resources available to them that the government do. They don't have all of this army of civil servants to help them crunch the numbers. So they've come up with these tax plans. But as you've said, the IFS have said they're fanciful. They just don't keep up with what's changed. This change in inflation is going to mean that spending on public services and all of those kind of usual things, benefits that the government have to pay out, you know, that's going to go up significantly. And a lot of the kind of tax cut plans that they had just won't be affordable anymore.
Yeah. And in the midst of all this, of course, the 10.1% was announced this week, and they both had to come out and say, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But we do have a Prime Minister at the moment still, and his name's Boris Johnson. And I know Parliament's not in session, but surely there is some responsibility on his shoulders that he is not willing to take on. He said he will refuse to do anything until the new Prime Minister is in place. I don't know how that's a tactic that he's playing for the long term, that he doesn't want to do anything that might sort of sully his name again, or he's lazy.
I mean, I think at the moment it's very difficult because the situation is growing and it's going to need a really significant response. And I think most prime ministers tend to be a little bit hesitant to sort of make any massive spending decisions or big policy plans in the middle of a leadership campaign, because that would change the fundamental approach that the candidates would have to take and put them in a very difficult position. But at the same time, I don't think anybody really expected him in the middle of what is a deep crisis to kind of abandon stations and go off on 2 holidays within as many weeks. So there's a lot of criticism of him over that. I guess his thinking is, well, I can't do anything in Downing Street, so I may as well enjoy myself. But I think it doesn't look or reflect particularly well on the government and the Tory party as a whole, that he's going off on foreign holidays when everybody's back at home, you know, willfully trying to come up with plans to try and help households during the winter. Yeah.
Well, moving on to Labour, a story came out from the week. 90,000 people, or their members, excuse me, are dwindling away. They've lost that many members. That's quite a hit. I'm not sure how many they have, because it's well reported how many Conservatives have. It's around 160,000, because we've been hearing it constantly in these leadership debates. But is that a big figure for Labour to lose out of nowhere?
It is a big figure. Obviously, it takes a fair chunk out of their bank balance. They do still have around 400,000, between 400 and 500,000. Unlike the Conservatives, as you said, this figure has been reported, the Conservative membership, but we don't actually know for sure. They never released it. So the numbers do kind of fluctuate around, whereas Labour do every year publish their membership figures, But they've had other problems. They've had to lay off staff, they've had to pay redundancy, they've had various court cases going through. So it does put them in a tricky financial situation. We did see hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands at least join up when Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party. But many of them joined as kind of these £3 supporter payments. So it's slightly less of a hit than losing fully paid up members. But they're going to have to be trying to get out there, raise money. If they want to be able to be in a fighting position for a general election, they're going to really have to push that. The Tories, I think, will be thinking that when a new leader gets in, that's always a good time to raise money. They'll be trying to build up their war chest. So, you know, I think Labour have said their position will improve over the next year. They'll have some of these one-off costs won't be there, but it's still going to be concerning for Keir Starmer. He needs to get some more money in so that he can take on the Conservatives in a kind of fair fight in the next election.
Just quickly before I move on to the last point, John, is there an argument that a lot of those members that might have been lost were the sort of traditionally ultra-left-wing Corbynite supporters who have left because they think Keir is too far to the middle, or sort of a Tony Blair 2.0?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly an argument for that. You know, a lot of people joined up because they supported Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn, obviously still a Labour Party member, but he's lost the whip. He's no longer a Labour MP. And that really bothered quite a lot of his supporters. And many of them who signed up to Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party view Keir Starmer as not taking a kind of left-wing socialist approach to these issues, and will be frustrated and have left. Completely anecdotally, I think a lot of people are probably looking at how they can cut a little bit of money out of their household budgets as we approach the winter. It might have an impact as well. That's something that was suggested to me by one person in the party. But yeah, I think, you know, Keir Starmer will have to fight to kind of build up the membership, get the party back into a kind of fighting stance if there's a general election coming up. But the Conservatives will be doing the same thing and trying to raise as much money as possible in the coming months, I think.
John, absolute pleasure as always. Thank you for stopping by. Now, we are moving on to something a little bit different, as the presenter and former TOWIE star Mark Wright is taking on his first ever marathon this year in October at the London Marathon. Mark has teamed up with Flora, leading their Get Towns Active campaign, which aims to inspire and motivate people across the country to take natural steps towards a more active lifestyle. He spoke to me about his goals for London's most iconic and inclusive race, as well as a few tips he's been getting from his rather successful running coach.
I've always wanted to do the marathon. I tried to do it last year and I got injured, so I had to pull out. And other than that, I've always played football, so long distance running wasn't really my thing. It was more, you know, short, intense, high intensity stuff. But I've always wanted to do it, and I've never really had the time, because it takes a lot of time, the training and stuff. And then Flora got in touch with me and wanted to do this campaign called Get Towns Active. And during lockdown, I was training a lot of people online and encouraging people to get fit and be the new them. So it was a perfect fit, really. So I'm not telling everyone to do the marathon, but I'm doing that, and I just want them to get more active and go for one extra walk than they would normally go for, or take the stairs instead of the elevator, you know? Elevator, lift. I've been in America too long. But yeah.
Why has that become an important thing for you to do now then? Why do you want to start helping people trying to get active?
I've always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed telling my mates what to do and helping them and, you know, encouraging them and taking them for workouts. But then during lockdown, I was very unmotivated in the first month, I think it was. And I hadn't gone gym for like 3 weeks. And I was like, this isn't right. I can't motivate myself to go to the gym. And I've never done that, because keeping fit is part of my life. I train 5 days a week. So I booked like an Instagram live with my followers and told them I'll be on live the next morning. So I had to get up and do it. And that's why I did it. I got up, thousands joined. And then I started this whole community, and I've got my own company now called Live Wright. It's an app that supplies workouts for people. And when I get feedback that I've, you know, changed their life for the better, both mentally and physically, and they're getting fit and they're the best version of themselves, it's just the most rewarding feeling ever. So to encourage more people to get fit and healthy and get active like we're doing here is just the perfect kind of thing for me, you know?
Yeah, you've got a hell of a coach, I've just seen here. The great Paula Ratcliffe's been putting you through her paces. That's quite something. Not many people get Paula Ratcliffe to coach them on the marathon.
Yeah, Paula's, I didn't really listen to her last year enough, and that's why I made an injury, I think, because pulled my calf, because I trained too fast, so I didn't listen to her. But now I'm really listening to her advice, and it's, you know, I'm in great stead. She's really kind of helping me get to where I need to get to. Yeah,
vicariously through her then, a lot of people might be watching this who are doing the marathon. What are the best tips she's given you in terms of that training in the build-up?
So she told me to do like 3 runs a week. One a fast pace, like a short run, like 5-6K. One a medium sort of mileage, well, medium to low, like 8 to 10 miles, and do that at a reasonably slow pace, steady pace, and then do a really long run, like your longest one, at any pace you like, just getting yourself out on your legs and being out there for that long. at one time is very important because our bodies aren't used to it. And then eventually the time that you're doing the long one in will just naturally start to get quicker as time goes on and the more your body gets used to it.
There you go, Mark Wright there taking on his first marathon at the London Marathon in October. You don't have to run one, just get your body moving. You're watching London Live News with James Dickman. A reminder, our top story is coming up after the break. Plus, something for MMA fans as Hackney's very own Michael Venom Page gets ready to take on the Cage for his debut in the sport. Let's meet him after the break.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to London Live News. Let's just run you through a couple of our main stories from today. Today's strikes brought London's transport network to a complete halt as tube workers and some bus drivers, as well as a few underground workers, took their leave today. Transport for London advised people to avoid travelling altogether, with services also affected tomorrow morning, though bus drivers from the Unite union employed by London United are striking for 48 hours. 400 London Overground workers employed by Arriva Rail were also striking, though the Overground is running through most of central London. It's the fifth time RMT members on the London Underground have walked out for 24 hours this year in a dispute over job cuts and problems with their pensions, supposedly. The hangover from rail strikers from yesterday also walking out tomorrow hasn't helped commuters today. Sadiq Khan has warned that the government may be deliberately provoking the unions into strike action.
Well, the way the government's behaving, it's almost like they're deliberately provoking strikes across the country, not just in the transport sector, but in other sectors as well, as a precursor for legislation to curtail the rights of trade unions to go on strikes. It's really important for us to recognise that over the last 2 years, our transport workers have been frontline heroes, keeping public transport running to allow key workers, the nurses, the doctors, the retailers and others, firefighters, to get to place of work. It's not right to treat transport workers this way. I'm keen, though, to make sure we get the best possible deal for TfL, because we don't get a national recovery without a London recovery. We simply will not get a London recovery unless TfL fires on all cylinders. What we don't want are unreasonable draconian strings attached by the government.
There you go, let's have a look at some of London's other main stories today. A man has appeared in court charged with the murder of a grandfather stabbed whilst riding a mobility scooter in West London. Thomas O'Halloran, who is 87 years old, died at the scene on Caton Road in Greenford after being attacked just after 4 p.m. in the afternoon. On Tuesday, his friend said he was on his way to busk, something he did regularly, playing his accordion. Lee Byer, who was 44 years old and from Southall, was remanded in custody at Willesden Magistrates Court. He spoke only to confirm his name, date of birth, and that he was of no fixed abode. Now, the MMA Hackney fighter Michael Venom Page is preparing to make his bare-knuckle debut tomorrow in the capital as he faces the US star Platinum Mike Perry at Wembley Arena. Well, Page has long been one of MMA's biggest stars, with a professional record of 20 wins to 2 losses. Well, with all these victories behind him, he is now turning his attention to bare-knuckle fighting. He's been telling Alicia more about the preparations and why he's made the career move.
Something I have wanted to just try. I've always wanted to kind of, see how it'd suit me. I think it will. And then the opportunity came. Well, when I saw, the bare knuckle kind of being legalized and, more and more shows are starting to do it, I saw myself doing it more once I finished my career in the mixed martial arts. But then the opportunity came a lot sooner and allowed me to do it while still, pursuing what I'm doing in MMA. So it just kind of came timed perfectly.
How has your training changed to prepare for this fight? Has it changed?
Nah, not at all. Say not at all. We're doing more the boxing side, which obviously I've boxed before, so it's not something that I'm not accustomed to. So we're doing a lot more boxing. There's a style of wrestling called Greco, which is a bit more upright wrestling. So it's a lot more your arms, your shoulders, shoulder work, because there's a lot of what they call dirty boxing, which is in the BKFC or in bare knuckle, they allow you to do the dirty boxing side. So you have to be quite strong in a clinch to prevent it, manipulate somebody and land good shots for yourself. So we'll be doing a bit more of that. Conditioning work for the hands, and strengthening work for your forearms, fingers, and just conditioning for the knuckles. But outside of just those few additions, it's just been boxing training.
You say you're going to put on a show. What kind of opponent is Mike Perry for you?
Oh no, he's a guy that is he's going to help to make it exciting because he's tough. He's a person that will get hit with something good, big shot that everybody can see, that's going to wow everybody at that, whoa, got hit with that shot, and then still be there afterwards, still be willing to come forward, still be willing to keep fighting, which is a great attribute for a show, Not necessarily the greatest to win.
Growing up in London, how did you get into this whole world of fighting? Where did it all start for you, and what opportunities were there for you?
So when I was younger, as well, certainly because my mum used to do kung fu along with my dad. My dad became an instructor himself, and then obviously started teaching all of his kids. So I was surrounded by everybody that did martial arts. Our competition circuit, although we did Lao Gar Kung Fu, our competition circuit was it's like sport karate. It's freestyle kickboxing. And so I used to do that for competitions. And my first competition, I was 5 years old. And it's very say underground, but it's like unknown. Not many people know it or truly understand it. So when I kind of crossed over into the mixed martial arts world, it was the first time that it kind of being displayed on that level. So a lot of people thought I was more of the unique person, when there's loads of people that fight like me in that world. And there's other people that are similar, like Wonderboy Thompson in the UFC, Raymond Daniels also in Bellator. And you can see the similarities in our style. And like I said, there's thousands and thousands of people that was, fighting exactly the same way. We just decided to cross over into a more full contact arena and, made it successful.
Okay, so you're preparing for Mike Perry, but who have you got your sights on next in MMA or bare knuckle?
I never really do that. The only person I really wanted to get back, anytime I've lost, I lost once before my last fight, and then I got that one back. My last fight didn't go according to plan. Was a close split decision for the belt. I lost that one, so my goal is to get that one back. So the likeliness is I'm not going to be able to ask for that opponent straight away. He's going to have other plans himself. But it's about staying active. The more active you stay, the quicker your name rises back to the top. So the goal is just to be as active as possible straight after.
Someone who's hardly ever out of the press, you recently said you're open to a fight against Jake Paul. What's your take on YouTubers getting into the ring?
Yeah, it just depends on their intent. Like, if you're in it to make a quick buck because you can, then it's just a white collar fight to me. It's not like and some of them can be exciting just simply because of the lack of skill. Actually, can make for more of an exciting fight. Some of them, but if you are actually really wanting to, train yourself and go through the hardship, then I have respect to you. But it just, I don't see you at the highest level. I find it weird when they do call out some of the biggest fighters, but at the same time, if they're willing to put themselves in there and go through it, then again, still I kind of have to respect it because I know how difficult the training is. These guys, because of their a lot of these guys have the funding and the support behind them to get the top coaches, so they can progress relatively quickly in comparison to other people. Seeing it myself firsthand with KSI being at my gym, just in 6 months, just the difference of a person he is. And again, that's just with somebody just being intensively working on yourself. So for me, it's just about your intent. If you're there to make a quick buck, I have no interest. If you're actually taking it seriously, then yeah, I'm in full support.
What's your thoughts on Jake Paul taking it seriously?
He seems to be. He does seem to be, and I've heard stories about him, working in the gym and so on and so forth. And obviously, he's getting the results. So yeah, no, definitely, it seems to be a person that's taking it seriously. You just got to see how long it, continues for. He might get bored and find another project that he wants to work on, and then he ends up pulling his following over there instead. But for now, he does seem to be massively fascinated in the fighting world.
And obviously, you've got the weigh-in night before the fight. What are you going to be doing to prepare the night before? What are you going to be eating? Is it going to be a late night, an early night?
I kind of just go with how I feel. Like I've never been a structured person like that. A lot of people find me weird in that sense because I'm a bit chaotic before fights, and a lot of people like to be a bit more calm. So I'll be like playing music, mixing on the decks, blazing music in my room. I got people in my room all laughing and joking and da da da. I got family in my room. I like that, having that energy, because it makes what I'm doing fun. It kind of takes the seriousness away from it, and it allows me to enjoy it, which is what, I have the privilege of doing. I get to enjoy something that I love, and I get paid to do it. So I like to try and stay in that state of mind, which is also why even during fights you see me dancing and I'm smiling. It's because I'm trying to remain in that enjoyment phase, even while somebody's trying to take my head off.
Oh, Michael, we look forward to seeing you smiling and dancing tomorrow night. Can't wait to watch. We'll be rooting for you.
Thank you so much.
Michael's bare-knuckle bout tomorrow night at Wembley Arena. All right, stay with us for our final part this evening. The iconic UK DJ producer Goldie will be here talking about 51st Festival, celebrating the roots of house music.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to the final part of this evening's programme. A couple of festivals for you in the next few minutes. The 51st Festival is the first, and it's returning to the capital this weekend with huge names such as the drum and bass pioneer Goldie. The festival will be celebrating the roots of house music, putting together the hugely influential sound and all its threads. Well, Hebe spoke to Goldie about the upcoming shows.
It's 51st State. I don't know. It's, you know, looking at it, there's been a massive resurgence of D&B jungle. I don't personally think it went anywhere. We just do what we do. But I think that the new generation of young people that are so into this music, we've got a real kind of like stalwart, layout of the amount of talent that we've got playing. You know, you've got Brocky and Det, and you've got all of the Heads Original, Fabio and Groove Rider. It's basically the kitchen sink of D&B, which is nice. Everyone in there. It's a solid, you know, if you're into UK culture, which is, you know, people were scratching their heads about this culture, and it's a global thing, whether you like it or not. It's something that's really been inspiring lots of generations and new generations especially, which I find fascinating, really. You know, it became our Motown, this music did, overnight. Well, it wasn't overnight, it took 27, 28 years. But I think that the great thing about this music is that it really has had such a global appeal. And 51st State, you know, there's been a lot of people struggling around festivals this year. And I think that it will be a really, really good one, because you've got a lot, you know, when the word on the street, the word on road, is it's going to be a really great festival, because there's a lot of people that the older generation come out for festivals like this as opposed to the younger guys too.
You've just mentioned that kind of music genre has completely changed and kind of come to the forefront overnight, as you say, but it's taken years and years. What's happened to the landscape of music?
The music hasn't changed, my dear. The music's been the same. The music has always progressed from when it was in the early 90s. It's just gone like that. And what's changed is people's perceptions towards music. That's the only thing that's changed. Where, for example, you know, me doing the closing ceremony of the Commonwealth Games with Beverly Knight, you know, would be unheard of 20 years ago. It was like, but this music that was so far underground has become the overground champion. The music that people thought was different and a bit weird has now become what you call the normal popular genre of music. So I think that's the same could be said as jazz was, or the same could be said of Miles Davis's music. The same could be said with Dionne Warwick. Same could be said of, you know, of Dandridge. All these great musical acts. You know, you look at the 80s and look at soul music, how big that became, and look at how it influenced the world. And electronic music, and especially jungle music, has influenced the world. It's a massive impact. You know, I see kids going out and finding their, you know, young girls and boys finding their mother and father's jungle collection, which is brilliant. And you've got great young people being influenced by it. So we haven't changed. We're still here, doing what we've always been doing.
And what should the people coming to the festival expect from you in terms of, you know, older music, your slightly newer stuff? Tell us a bit more about that.
We want to go out post-pandemic. People need to dance. People want to go out and just scream, dance, jump around, hear new music, hear old music, question the music they're hearing. And the one thing that gets any society out of their kind of feeling of like this lowest down inversion is music. We go out with people. We want to go out and we want to be with people. It's not just about this. People forget the very thing that everyone wants to interview me for and talk about is culture. Culture wasn't made in festivals. Culture's made in clubs. So the more people you go out and listen to the music, that want to go out and start their own little community of music, is very important. It's very important for people to be together.
Goldie with Hebe there. The festival is on Saturday, and Copt Hall playing fields for that one. Right, returning to Finsbury Park this week is the largest Latin festival in Europe. Latino Life is set to bring colour and dancing as they celebrate the music genres of samba, jazz, fusion and folk. The festival was set up to give up-and-coming artists the chance to take to the wider public. The artistic director, Jose Luis, told us the event is a chance for the community to come together, no matter who you are as well.
The festival is a two-day extravaganza of Latino culture and music. There is a lot of people from Latin American and Spanish heritage in the UK, right? We are a bit invisible because to understand our culture, we are basically a culture, no a race. Okay, so there is some of us who are black, some of us who are blonde, some of us who are like Arabs. You know, is for us to be taken into account is very difficult. So we always had that problem. At one point, there was a big festival in South London that I used to be part of, and that stopped years ago. And I thought, well, you know, this is the only thing that we have to show our culture in London and the UK. And it was always in my mind, let's try to put something together. And as soon as we put it out, it grew so quickly that you can see that there was a need for it. There is loads of British Latinos who are looking, you know, to something to strengthen their identity. You know, they're looking for, you know, like the Caribbean community have their Notting Hill Carnival. Well, we now have this. That's the biggest reason why we came together. We have lots of new things. For the first time, we're going to have a Brazilian stage. Brazil has the largest community within our community here in London, and they never had their own stage. That's going to be fantastic. They have, I don't know, I think 15 dance shows, 6 bands. It's just going to be phenomenal. And also we have a record label called Candela Records in partnership with Atlantic Records. And this is the first year we have our own artists on, you know, signed artists on the stage. We had them last year, but they weren't signed. But this year now they have their full-on shows, and this is like super important for the community because it's the only label that is championing Latino sounds made in the UK. These are kids that grew up here, that are bilingual, that feel as Latino as they feel British. So it's quite an important thing for them, and I think those would be the highlights. Also, we have some guests coming from Spain through an initiative called the Spanish Wave, and they are coming for the first time to the UK to showcase, and that's going to be on Sunday. It's really important for us. I mean, you know, because as an immigrant, communities are kind of like extended family. See, for example, I didn't have much family here, so my friends and my community are very important to me because that's how I kind of reconnect to back home. So restaurants, food, the parties, we do a lot of parties constantly, and now reggaeton has become such a big thing, and we've been pioneering that for over 20 years now, and seeing reggaeton being recognized now by the music industry here in the UK is really lovely to see. The main idea is for people to enjoy the day in the park. You know, it is very inclusive. We pride ourselves on being really inclusive. Anyone can come. This is a festival of Latin culture for everyone else as well. And I think what I would like people to take away would be the fact that there is lots of Latinos living in London, and we're part of the broader society, and we contribute as much as everybody else, and we like partying a lot, and we hope that people can share that with us.
There There you go, that's taking place this weekend. Let's just check on the weather for you now for both of those festivals if you're keen. This evening and tonight it will continue to be dry and clear for most. Overnight lows of around 15 degrees overnight, so slightly cooler than yesterday. Plenty of early morning sunshine tomorrow. In the afternoon, patchy cloud will tend to build, bringing a small chance of showers, sort of mid-20s for Saturday and Sunday as we head into Monday as well. There we go, that is all we got time for this evening. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow morning for London's Weekend. The news team will be back on Monday at 6 p.m. But for now, good evening and take care. Enjoy the weekend.